Leslie Nelson Pollard was born in 1956 in New Orleans, Louisiana. He is a Seventh-day Adventist minister, author, and administrator. Since 2011, he has served as the 11th president of Oakwood University, the church's sole historically black college or university. Dr. Pollard has earned 5 degrees, earning a Bachelor of Arts in Theology from Oakwood University in 1978, a Master of Divinity from Andrews University in 1983, a Doctor of Ministry from Claremont School of Theology in 1992, a Master of Business degree from La Sierra University in 2005, and a Ph.D. in New Testament Language and Literature from the Andrews University Theological Seminary in 2007. In 1979, Leslie married Dr. Prudence LaBeach Pollard, a human resource specialist, educator, and author, who is a human resource specialist, educator, and author. The Pollards have 2 adult daughters, Kristen Pollard Keel, an attorney, and Karen Pollard Smith, a pharmacist. They also have 3 grandchildren. From 1996 to 2011, Dr. Pollard was the Vice President for Diversity at Loma Linda University. Considered an authority on diversity, in the year 2000, he published the book Embracing Diversity: How to Understand and Reach People of All Cultures. Dr. Pollard began his presidency at Oakwood University in January of 2011. His tenure is notable for the launch of Oakwood Online University, more than $30 million of construction and renovation, the creation of Oakwood Organic Farms, the largest urban farm in northern Alabama, and the placement of Oakwood University as an institution of the Northern American Division instead of its previous status as a general conference institution. Dr. Pollard is also noted for strong social media presence, international recognition as a speaker and evangelist, and his involvement in national politics. His personal mission statement reads, "My mission is to serve my God, my family, my community, and humanity with every resource God has given me. I will serve as many as I can, for as long as I can, until God calls me to my rest." Your speaker today, Dr. Leslie Pollard.
I'm Leslie Pollard from Oakwood University, and I want to especially express my appreciation to the great members of the Allegheny East Conference for all of your support of Oakwood University. I am seated today because I'm scheduled to have a knee surgery, so I wanted to get this done before and share these moments with you. So today I want to stay with the theme that Elder Fordham and his team have laid out about restoration. And the title of my message is God Restores. And it comes from a passage that may be familiar, but then we'd like to approach it in a new way. Galatians chapter 4, verse 4 says, "But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman under the law, to redeem them that are under the law." The story is unforgettable. A tour guide leads a group of students through a magnificent London art gallery. And as they are walking the halls of this beautiful gallery, appreciating all of the pieces of art, there is one picture, though, that grabs the attention of one of the students. It is the picture of Dr. Faust playing chess with the devil. And the title of the picture is Checkmate. Now, it's a fascinating picture because the beleaguered Dr. Faust had already sold his soul to the devil. And now he's in a negotiation, as it were, as he tries to maneuver around the chessboard. It's a fascinating picture because the Russian student who is also observing the picture is also a chess master. Now, the picture is called checkmate. Checkmate means that the opponent is cornered and that they are about to lose their king and that there is no room for escape. There are no more options. There are no more opportunities. There is no latitude. There's no ability to move away. And the picture is called checkmate. The young student, who is also a Russian chess master, begins looking at the picture and pacing the floor. He looks at the picture, he paces the floor. He comes back and he studies the picture and he paces the floor. And as everyone is moving away from the picture, because for them it's simply one more ordinary piece of art, he yells out, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. It's not over for Dr. Faust. His king has one more move. His king has another move." 2,000 years ago, Satan thought that he had cornered the king of the universe. He thought that by causing the first pair to fall in Genesis chapter 1 and 2 and 3, you know the creation story. By causing them to fall, he had put God in checkmate. He thought that there were no more options, because if the man and the woman sinned, then obviously they would be eternally lost, haplessly, hopelessly lost. But Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, reminds us that God has another move. Notice what the text says. It says, "But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman under the law, to redeem them that are under the law." Let me suggest to you this morning, my brothers and sisters from the Allegheny East Conference, let me suggest to you that our King always has another move. Satan may think that he has him cornered. In fact, Satan may think that he has you cornered. But I want to encourage you today that God, the God of restoration, always has another move. That text is found in the book of Galatians. It is a magnificent passage. It speaks to the plan of salvation. It speaks to God's efforts to save his people. It is the summation of the motives of God. But more than that, it is also a revelation of how God was working to restore the human family back to himself. You see, the title of our message this morning is God Restores. And this text tells us exactly how God does that. Look at the first way he restores in the text. Your Bible says, "But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his Son." Let me suggest to you that when God restores, he always restores mercifully. Here's what I mean by that. In the Eden story, when our parents fell, God himself could have moved away from them. But notice what you find. Even though Adam and Eve are shivering in the cold of the garden, now they have lost their climate-controlled habitat. All of a sudden, a chill has run through the garden because they have now engaged in disobedience. And look at what the Bible says. It was in the evening, in the cool of the day, that God began moving through the garden. He could have moved away from them, but he didn't. He moved toward Adam and Eve. Why? Because he was on a mission of restoration. And let me suggest to you that as you look at the moves of God, whenever God is getting ready to restore, he does so mercifully. He doesn't move away from us. He begins to move toward us. And today, if you wish, you can have God move toward your situation. You know, one of the popular sayings of our day is we talk about the need to lean in bad circumstances. You've got to lean into that thing. You've got to lean into your difficulty with finances. You've got to lean into the problems with your children. You've got to lean into your marriage. And what that means is leaning in means that you don't run away. You don't back up. You don't take a back step, but that now you begin to move toward that thing. Well, that's what God is doing here. In Genesis, when he begins to restore, he does so mercifully because he is now moving in. He's leaning in toward his disobedient children. The first lesson of Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, is that when God restores, he restores mercifully. A few years ago, when our girls were little, Prudence would often gather them together, especially in the middle of winter, and she would make chocolate, and they just loved chocolate. Chocolate milk, Nestle chocolate, you name it. And when she would fill up the cup, at the end, she would put a big glob of whipped cream on it for Chrissy and Karen. When they were little girls, 5, 6 years old, and they would absolutely love that. And one of the things they loved to do was after they drank the chocolate, they would move the cup, and then they loved to sip from the saucer, because there in the saucer was the overflow. The overflow. Watch this now. When God gets ready to do something for you, even if he doesn't fill the cup right away, he will restore you so fully that you'll have the ability to sip from the overflow. That's what our God does. And when he moves so he restores mercifully. But I don't want to stop there. The text also points us to a second truth about the way God restores. Not only does he restore mercifully, but when God restores, he restores mysteriously. Notice what that text says. It says, but when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his Son. You see, mysteriously. God moves mysteriously. He restores mysteriously. When the fullness of time was come. Here is the good news. Your life and my life, our lives are on God's timetable. Not my timetable, not your timetable, but on God's timetable. Our ancestors used to say, he may not come when you want him, but he's always right on time. I have lived this in my own experience. I have come to circumstances where God brought me to the brink, and it was there that we saw his hand begin to move. Circumstances, obstacles, persons, challenges out of the way to create a clear path. But it's always in the fullness of time. And the way God manages time is always mysterious. When he restores, he does so mysteriously in ways that you and I could never, ever have anticipated. He restores mercifully, he restores mysteriously, and guess what? The text also points us to the third way he restores. He restores miraculously. When he restores miraculously. Ask the young woman who had fallen into bad company, and somehow in the midst of all of her wanderings and loneliness, trying to meet her needs through friends and relationships, she came up pregnant. And in those days, whenever someone came up pregnant, back in those days, they would be subject to church discipline, and this young lady, of course, was disfellowshipped. But now, show you how God moves, and he moves miraculously. Notice, 12 years later, a gravelly-throated evangelist showed up in her city, and he began preaching the message. And that 12-year-old little boy joined the church. Not only did he join the church, he went to Oakwood University, he became a minister, and today, that little boy is the one who's preaching to you right now. He is the president of Oakwood University. I have experienced it. I have seen that God's miraculous restoration is non-discriminating. God is an equal opportunity employer. But don't forget now, if God is an equal opportunity employer, you must also keep right alongside that Satan is an equal opportunity destroyer. And he would work to try to destroy your dreams, your goals, your purposes. But once you put your hand in the hands of God, you know that God will restore you. That's why the text says, but in the fullness of time, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman. There's the miracle. That this Jesus, who walked into the garden to retrieve his lost family, also showed up 2,000 years ago. This time, not in a garden, but in a manger, down in Bethlehem, where he did not have so much as a place to really lay his head. This Jesus showed up, and he showed up miraculously. We call it the Immaculate Conception. A virgin girl conceives and gives birth to a son. And the angel said, thou shalt call his name Jesus. Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. For he shall save his people from their sins. God moves, and he moves miraculously. He restores miraculously. He restores mercifully. He restores mysteriously. Won't you let him do that work of restoration today in your life and in your family? And if you embrace it, what will happen is you begin to see miracles take place, simply because the God who loves you is also restoring you. Don't worry about what people say about you. Don't worry about what you think people think about you. They say in most cases, people are not even thinking about you and me. That's what people say. They're not even thinking about you and me. We're on our own mind so deeply. Worry about what God knows about you. Psalm 139 verse 1 says, O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. God is in the process of restoring you. Your life is not an accident. Your journey is not a coincidence. Everything God is doing for you, He is doing it as an act of providence, and He is restoring you. He said back in the Old Testament, I will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. It doesn't matter if you've made mistakes. Guess what? Our God of restoration is going to give you that back and much more, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So when the fullness of your time comes, watch Him. Watch Him move mercifully. He already has. Watch Him move mysteriously. He will continue to do so. And watch Him move miraculously. Get ready for your miracle, because God is in the restoration business. May God bless you, and may He bless the Allegheny East Conference of Seventh-day Adventists.